I don't know why they have the land here or what.
Oh, good.
They're waiting. To get in the spring court. Courtroom, yes. Setting land from here.
The extent to which government can informally get liberties by persuasion, pressure, etc. And I think that a clear limit on their ability to do that is necessary to ensure that the First Amendment is very clearly reserved.
It says southern people. Where is the southern people?
Yeah, so the First Amendment prohibits the government from censoring.
Hey, that's young grandma. Good morning. I guess this land is for they can get in the building. Let me see.
Nobody's doing stand-up though.
Yeah, it's like a rally to protect free speech. Stand-ups are only allowed over here.
That's what I thought, yeah.
What's that media?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Good. Let's speak to them.
Hey!
Yeah.
Hey, Evan! Evan, you
Hey, sir. Sir, get back in your vehicle. You can't stop your vehicle.
Okay, one second. We'll put it on audio.
Thank you, Elon Musk. Yes. Thanks for Twitter.
So the building's not open to the public, and I would tell you to take your chances with the public line, but
What's the public line?
to get into the oral argument, the public can go in, but it's pretty long right now. Yeah, fair enough. So, yep, but I suggest Thursday morning.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem.
from Cuba and from China. Not too much Patriots and the media.
Yeah, sure, man. Yeah.
We had to endure as Black people due to the injustices of slavery. You can actually use that for empowerment, and also you can use it to say the next generation will not go through it and it ends with us. Modern slavery will end, but it takes the millennials to do it because the previous generations are tired. So it takes us.
Tired.
Oh, they're tired and they're retired. So they're comfortable. They're sitting down pretty much. Even if they're not comfortable, they're not going to speak out as much because they're tired.
Stunning. What's the school name?
It's under the Imani Nia School of Fine Arts and Trades. That's IMANI. And that is a Pan-African name because we have a focus in ethics in Nguzo Saba. And Nguzo Saba is actually the 7 principles of Kwanzaa.
Okay.
And
Kwanzaa is what? I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is.
Kwanzaa is a 7-day holiday from December 26th until January 1st. And it focuses on a principle each day. It gets us back to our unity before the first day of the year so that we could actually be aligned for the manifestations of that future year. And what we have to do is one.
In what city are you in?
I am in Soul City, the historic Utopia. Soul City, North Carolina. It's also known as
Oh my gosh, what's it called? There's a website in Northtown. Yes.
Office within hours, the Biden administration was sending stuff to social media to censor Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is also president. Well, the government has a lot of money. If they were to persuade people, I'm sure they can do it without, the twisting the arm of social media. So,
those are
constant emails back and forth.
The American Patriots, exactly. They don't want to be in DC. Nobody wants to come to DC.
That they want to censor. The government
Then they leave DC to the crazy left?
Yeah, that's what's happening. They're abandoned DC to the crazy left. And then everyone's going to go in their state, like Virginia. Everybody goes back to their state. West Virginia, everybody organizes in their state. Because people are sick of the federal government. It's unbelievable.
They seem to be more of like free speech absolutists, but I don't know if you...
Trying to survive. I'm trying to survive. It's hard here.
Today it's Murphy v. Missouri, but that case feeds into Kennedy and CHTV.
Gotcha.
So we believe, we hope, that they will lean in the way of free speech.
Thank you.
It's important for the American people to realize that it's not only the ability to say things,
Good morning, Patriots. Good morning, Birdie. Nellies. Good morning, Lala. Good morning, Bird. Not too much people here. Hi, Shadow. I saw a lot of media people, but not too much. Not too much patriots. Not too much American citizens.
He is not elected. This will be a bloody war.
Let's see, somewhere else there.
A little nervous, so I feel good.
Oh, that will be an entrance for, yeah, for people to get in the building, I think. It's not for public.
I look just like everybody. No, you're about that's all. I have all the time. I love Livia. Livia was a great guy. Oh, okay. That's why I asked.
Yes, there's a hat with your name on it.
I was your city teacher was fired. Yeah.
Freedom of speech. Where is it gone? It's gone.
What did I do with my water?
They will give the future here, I think. That's why the media.
You got your hands full. Hey! Hi, Claire. Good. How are you? I'm Jill.
It is. That's huge, yeah. Are they're based here in DC? I've been here 5 years. I did local
This looks like a security guard. This way.
But that's, you know, that's an estimate of what the arch.
Maybe, I don't know. I'll just be honest with you. I have some other stuff to get done. Right here, everyone's eyes.
Broken down, I'm tired of living life on the merry-go-round. You can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we can walk it out.
reserved seating. We were going to meet with either one of Justice Kavanaugh's clerks or his secretary.
Okay, so you have reserved seat.
Okay. We're just about to get started here. Good morning, America. Good morning, world. Good morning, CHD, and good morning, Washington, D.C. Make some noise for free speech! Critical day here today. My name is Michael Kane. I am the founder of a group called Teachers for Choice. I was a New York City public school teacher and I was fired for declining the COVID shot. We've been fighting in court for years now, and thanks to Children's Health Defense, we have attorneys that are fighting brilliantly, hard, and they're in this for the long haul. So give it up for Children's Health Defense. Thank you so much to CHD and for everything that you've done. For me, for children, for free speech, for firefighters, for nurses, for parents, thank you all so much. You know, recently I heard Brett Weinstein say that the COVID crisis that came has created a dream team of sorts. And I think that's true. Some of the most amazing people on the planet have come together to fight against forced mandates, to fight against censorship. And one of those people, a group of those people that you might not know that's part of that dream team, is an internationally renowned group of musicians who, when the lockdowns came, they lost their livelihood. And that is the gentleman behind me, Kevin Nathaniel, and the Spirit Drummers. They have been playing music for freedom, against censorship, and to fight for the liberty of all earthlings for years now. And so it is my honor and privilege to bring up my ally and my dear friend to lead us in an opening prayer. I give to you, Kevin Nathaniel.
Thank you so much. It is such a pleasure, such a really special honor to be here today. And what I want to talk about is a prayer and a vision that we all share. So first I'm going to ring the sounds of the Endurer. Here we are, together, in this moment. In this moment, joined together in a vision. Here we are, together, in this moment, joined in a prayer. Joined in a prayer, joined in a vision, joined in a prayer vision. And we're all in this together. We are all in this together, linked, interdependently, linked synchronistically, all in this together, in a prayer vision. And the question is, what would we all like to see? And the question is, on what could we all agree? Yes, that we want to see all people living peaceful, happy, free. That we want to see all people living in liberty, living in liberty of expression, living in liberty of speech, free speech. Free speech is for everyone. And this vision of free speech is not just for ourselves, not just for our community, but for everyone. This is the vision, the prayer that we see. This is the vision and the prayer that we walk together in. And in this moment together, we can see this vision. And in your mind's eye, imagine what that vision of free speech looks like. And hold that vision. Imagine what that looks like. Free speech, freedom of expression. And send that vision out. Send that vision out all across the land to everyone. And send that vision out beyond those horizons to all the other lands. And send that vision of free speech even beyond those horizons to the universe. And let it travel out to the other planets and circle around the universe and come right back to us. And we're envisioning a healing for this world. We're envisioning a healing for this future. We're envisioning a healing in a great land of liberty that reaches far beyond the eye can see. One love. So the first chant, we'd like you to join in because we know that we don't want no censorship. And we don't need no censorship. And free speech is your right. And free speech is my right. Here we go. We don't want no censorship.
We don't want no censorship.
And we don't need no censorship.
We don't need no censorship.
We don't want no censorship.
We don't want no censorship.
And we don't need no censorship.
And we don't need no censorship.
More. We don't want no censorship.
We don't want no censorship.
We don't need no censorship.
We don't need no censorship.
And we don't want no censorship.
We don't want no censorship.
And we don't need no censorship.
And we don't need no censorship.
'Cause free speech is your right.
Free speech is your right.
And free speech is my right.
Free speech is my right.
And free speech is your right.
Free speech is your right.
And free speech is my right.
And free speech is my right.
And free speech is our right.
And free speech is our right.
Yes, free speech is our right.
Free speech is our right.
'Cause we don't want no censorship.
We don't want no
Yeah.
censorship.
And we don't need no censorship.
And we don't need no
No,
censorship.
we don't want no censorship.
We don't want no censorship.
And we don't need no censorship.
We don't need no censorship.
We don't want no censorship.
We don't want no censorship.
And we don't need no censorship.
And we don't need no censorship.
Come on, free speech is our right.
Free speech is our right.
Free speech is everybody's right.
Free speech is everybody's right.
Free speech is our right.
Free speech is our right.
Free speech is everybody's right.
Free speech is everybody's right.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Give it up for the spirit drummers.
Whatever you are, whoever you are, whatever your background is, whatever your religion is, thank you for being here today. I am really excited to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Christina Parks, graduated from the University of Wisconsin in 1992 with a double major in biochemistry and molecular biology. She went on to earn her PhD in cellular and molecular biology from the University of Michigan in 1999. Dr. Parks has been in the spotlight recently for her outspoken criticism of the misinformation campaign regarding the safety and effectiveness of COVID vaccines, as well as vaccines on the childhood schedule. I give to you Dr. Christina Parks.
So I think that we can all agree that in many ways this has become a symbol of our country. And on this, and there's been a lot of debate about what all these symbols on here mean, whether they're good or whether they're bad, but it says, in God we trust. In God we trust. On the US dollar. What God is it that America has been trusting in? Is it the God of gold, oil, and dollars? As I reflect on the last 4 years, I really have to ask what God we're trusting in. What God has created this utter devastation. Because if you're following the God of the universe, the Bible says you will know them by their fruit. So what God have we been following? For some, maybe it's the God of money, the promise of what they feel is a better future through more things. For others, maybe it was status. But again, we have to ask the question, what God has allowed us to give up our integrity, to sacrifice our freedoms, to walk away from our humanity, and perhaps most egregious, to utterly abandon our family and friends in their hour of need?
Yes.
Whatever God we are following has led us directly into hell.
Yes.
Right. In the Bible, Satan is called the father of lies. Have we been following truth, or have we been following lies?
Lies.
Have we been following God, or have we made the devil, the father of lies, our God?
Yes.
For most of us during this time, whether it was intentionally or unintentionally, as I reflect back on this time, I believe we've been following the God of fear.
Yes.
Fear of the uncertain. Fear of what others think of us. Fear that we will not be able to survive or thrive if we do not go along with this corrupt system. We know it's corrupt, but out of our fear, we comply anyway. And most of all, the fear that I have seen time after time after time is fear of either not being seen as a loving person or fear of not being loved. And so we have allowed our fear to be our God. And this is not the God of the universe. Because in almost every religious tradition I know of, God is defined as love. And so is what we've been doing loving. We have been told on TV that if we comply, we are loving. So they have used our love. I have talked to so many people. There are still people in masks. And almost invariably, when I ask them why they are wearing a mask, it is motivated by love. My grandma's at home, and I cannot afford to make her ill. Right? I'm actually feeling a little sick, and I don't want to give you. So how can we have the best of intentions? I do not believe there are all these evil Americans out there out for each other. No. We are acting out of love. Our intentions are out of love. So how did we create this hell? Our love has been manipulated and twisted. We were told that if we loved our neighbors and our families and our friends, we should wear a mask. We would social distance. We should get a vaccine. And in general, we should just comply because that's what loving people do. And as a country, we wanted to be seen as loving. And we're told that the most loving thing we can do is to love our neighbors as ourselves. So we put on our masks, we social distance, and we got a vaccine. In fact, some of us would rather die than be seen as someone that wasn't loving. However, I submit to you that love cannot act without truth. Love cannot act without truth. Yeah. So truth is our highest value. if you are told that something is food and you want to give it to your children to nourish and sustain and cause them to thrive, but it's actually poison, then the best of intentions has just created hell as you watch your child struggle and get ill from that poison. If we are told a vaccine is, what is it? Safe and effective, and it is not, then we have created a living hell by pushing that on our friends and relatives as the loving thing to do. So in order to truly love our families, our friends, our neighbors, our country, our actions must be based on truth.
Yes.
This is the heart of informed consent. But we were not given that option, were we? We were not given the truth, and in fact, when we tried to spread the truth, we were censored. And in fact, created what happens when you follow the father of lies. It has created death and destruction, vaccine injury, hurt, pain, loss of jobs. It has created hell, because that's what happens when you follow the devil, the father of lies. You are led straight. And so we must now correct our course. We must decide what God we will follow and whether we will make truth our highest priority, because we can be loving all day long, but if we don't have truth to base our actions on, then our result of our actions will not be what our intentions stem from. I want to read from this lawsuit, Missouri versus Biden, on what the court had to say about this.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
the
she's a
CDC
question.
became the determiner of truth, or social media platforms deciding whether COVID-19 statements made on social media were true or false. And the CDC was aware that it had become the determiner of truth. Now the CDC has turned itself into a fraud. It was aware that it had become the determiner of truth for social media platforms. If the CDC said a statement on social media was false, it was suppressed, in spite of alternative views. By telling social media companies that posted content was false, the CDC defendants knew the social media company was going to suppress the posted content. So the court is saying that the CDC has become a god, has become the arbiter of truth, but they're telling us lies. And they know they're telling us lies. And it told us every day the CDC was, presented with more information that people were trying to get through to you online, and they censored it. And they said, no, not made in a lab. No, it actually prevents transmission. Ivermectin doesn't work. All of the things that we now know were false, they told us were true. And when we acted on those truths, we created destruction. We destroyed our friends, we destroyed our family, we destroyed our jobs, we destroyed our society. And so it's time to return to truth. And this court, in the case of Missouri versus Biden, has stood with us. They have told the U.S. government, Biden, they excoriated the Biden administration for coercion of these social media platforms. They said that the government coerced social media platforms to deplatform people who were providing alternative views and science-based information. And so they excoriated the Biden administration, who was the top person coercing the social media platforms. They excoriated the CDC. They excoriated the Surgeon General for setting themselves as the arbiter of truth and not allowing you the information you needed to make informed consent. So now it's time for us to return to truth. And so in the preliminary injunction, the court sided with us, and we expect them to side with us today and turn this American republic back to truth. Yeah. However, I have something to say. For the last 4 years, there's only been a very small handful of us who, no matter what the pressure was, still stood for truth. So no matter what the court decides today, or what they decide tomorrow, each of us in this American republic must stand for what we decide. And each of us as citizens of the world must decide what we will stand for. Will we go along to get along? Or no matter what the consequences, will we now and going into the future and forever stand on truth? I know as far as me, no matter what the consequences, I will stand on truth. Thank you.
Dr. Christina Parks, just fantastic. In this lawsuit behind us, currently under the name Murthy v. Missouri, there are 3 doctors that are respondents. Dr. Martin Koldorf, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, and Dr. Aaron Periotti, excuse me. That's why we opened up with Dr. Parks and another doctor as well too, because censoring doctors is not in the past. Censoring doctors is still here and they're still trying to do it. So we need to hear from the doctors who stood up like Dr. Parks. After this next doctor, we will have an attorney coming up to describe in depth more about the case. So don't miss that, because you need to hear that information as well too. But coming up to the podium now is one of my heroes, one of my idols, and I'm proud to say one of my friends. He is one of the founders of the FLCCC and just a force in the medical freedom movement, fighting for the free speech of doctors. I give to you Dr. Pierre Kory.
Good morning. I consider myself to be one of the more censored physicians in this country throughout COVID. And I never thought I'd be in this position. In fact, before COVID, I knew very little of how much censorship is really occurring in our media historically and over decades. Much has been exposed to me. I've learned a lot in COVID, not only about COVID, but about how society has reacted to COVID and some of the forces that are leading to this censorship. And the reason why I want to give testimony today about what's happened to me, how I've been censored in every way, shape, and form, and I'll tell you why I want to do that. Because I think most of this country has no idea how much censorship is occurring. The information that you're hearing is highly curated, highly selected, and I got to tell you that information in almost all circumstances is not in your best interests. Right. And the reason why I want to talk about how I've been censored is because censorship is silent. You have no idea what you're not hearing. It's only those of us who've been censored who know exactly what's being prevented from going into your ears. And so, you know, what happened is I became expert with my colleagues and Professor Paul Marik on a number of facets of COVID, and I started to really dig deep into the science, and we were coming up with conclusions which were directly opposed by authorities in advanced health economies across the world. And I saw absurd scientific policies being propagated that were completely divorced from the science. And I come from a group of some of the most highly published and credible experts in our field. And, you know, it's not just one guy on a corner or out of his doctor's office with this opinion. We work together. We developed our own consensus, constantly debating, being transparent, showing all of our data and why we were reaching those conclusions. But they were not listened to, they were attacked. And, you know, by becoming an expert, what it taught me is it revealed a whole new world that it's quite dystopian, actually. Because I knew the truth about a lot of COVID science, and yet I had to wake up every day and read major newspapers all around the world peddling scientific lies. I had to hear leaders of health agencies who I formerly trusted. These are all institutions of society that I had never known to not trust. I thought papers like the New York Times were the paper of record, the arbiter of truth, you know, the accurate, you know, recorder of the day's events. And I found immense amount of lies around COVID appearing in papers like the New York Times and all sorts of major newspapers. And it wasn't just this country, it was a global phenomenon. Lies and lies and lies. Mm-hmm. And that's how I learned that they're capable of doing that. And so what happened to me, and by the way, censorship, a big part of censorship, it's not just preventing things from showing up in print or from emitting from the mouths of broadcasters. It's also, to censor, they go after truth tellers. And how they do that is by going after your credibility and your reputation. They want you to appear as uncredible to the population as possible so that no one listens to you. It's like they cut your tongue out of your mouth. And what happened to me, and I'm just going to give you my resume, my CV of censorship in COVID, is I first testified in the U.S. Senate about the critical need for corticosteroids in May of 2020. We knew it was life-saving. We did that at a time that every national and international healthcare organization in the world was recommending against corticosteroids. Well, guess what? That truth, which was censored, that testimony, corticosteroids became the standard of care worldwide 3 months later. Do you know how many millions of lives could have been saved had that information gotten out?
Yes.
And so we were literally putting out life-saving information. I wrote an op-ed in May of 2020 that this was an aerosol-transmitted disease. That is now accepted as a scientific truth. However, it took the CDC 1 year and the WHO 2 years to admit what was so obvious to us from the outset. And yet we were running around social distancing and lockdowning and wearing masks for an aerosol transmitted disease. Absolutely absurd. Then we went on, we started just studying early treatments, and we came out with a review paper, and I was asked to testify again in December 2020 around ivermectin. That video, my testimony went viral. On just one channel alone on the internet, on Fox News, it hit 8 million views before at the middle of the night it was taken down and disappeared from the internet. That same testimony went around the world. Many countries translated into their own languages. We were asked for interviews and lectures, and I spoke all around the world. Many countries were much more receptive than this one, but I will tell you, it's really the advanced health economies here who did most of the censorship. And why? Because ivermectin was a huge threat to just about everything they wanted to accomplish. Certainly all their financial interests, the entire financial interests of the global vaccination campaign, the competing markets for antivirals like Paxlovid and molnupiravir and monoclonal antibodies, and then Fauci's darling friend remdesivir. And so, you know, I wrote a book called The War on Ivermectin where I detail all of this. Now, although I wrote that book, one of my colleagues could have written the book, The War on Hydroxychloroquine, because it was the same war, same results. You're all being lied to. The idea that the only thing that works in COVID is Paxlovid is scientifically absurd, and it's not supported by the available evidence. Within 2 days of that testimony, the Associated Press did an interview with me. I spent 20 minutes explaining to that reporter all of the dozens of trials from all around the world showing how highly effective that drug is. Within a day, that article was posted. It was a complete hit job. None of the data was mentioned. They talked about someone drinking fish cleaner. I mean, this was an absurd article. And we actually filed an ethics complaint against the Associated Press. It went nowhere. But here's the thing, guys. Here's a little piece of emerging information. 1 week ago, a colleague told me that that same article, which appeared 2 days after that testimony, was removed from the Associated Press website. You can only access it now on the Wayback Machine. So what's going on here? They're trying to backtrack these things that they've done. So after the Associated Press, then I started seeing other hit jobs in the media. My papers, which had passed full peer review by senior scientists from the public health agencies that were ready for publication, suddenly were retracted. Some shadowy third-party anonymous peer reviewer told the editor that our conclusions were not supported by the data after it passed peer review by 4 senior scientists. That's not the only paper they retracted. They retracted mine. They retracted another paper that we wrote. And then we started seeing other colleagues who were deeply studied. We started seeing those retractions. And let me say a quick word about how the foundation of the censorship and the most damage and the most lives lost in COVID comes from the censorship that exists at the level of the medical journals. Because none of you in the press, none of you media know this. Editors of those highest impact medical journals have been on record for decades saying that almost half of what's published in them is not true. There's immense corruption in the conduct of research trials. Those fraudulent research trials, particularly ones around ivermectin, they sail to publication in those journals. There's a chapter in my book called The Editorial Mafia. I have in that book and on my computer dozens of examples of positive ivermectin trials submitted by researchers around the world that go to those editors, and they get 2-line rejection responses with my favorite phrase, which is, "This study is of not sufficient interest to our readership at this time." And so they are censoring science, good, honest science by researchers, in order to show that ivermectin doesn't work. And so we saw our retractions. And then my jobs. I've lost 3 jobs in COVID. One was within 1 day of that ivermectin testimony. It's because they refused to continue to hire me if I would not stop talking to the press, and I said, no way, not at this historic time. And then my last job, I was very happy in that job, but my partners were telling me the administration was getting a lot of pressure to get rid of me because of all the negative press around me. And eventually I was fired from that job. And so I'm now unemployable by the system solely for speaking truths. And this has to stop. You guys are being starved of information, which is leading to immense suffering and death. I'm one of the experts on the excess mortality that's roiling this country and other countries around the world. And it's all coming out of one of the most toxic and lethal interventions known to man, which is the vaccines. And if you guys are going to think I'm crazy, because all of you are sitting here saying, oh, but the vaccines are safe and effective. Guess what? If you have that thought in your mind, you are the most grotesque victim of censorship I have ever heard of. You know not of what you speak. You know little of what the true information and data is. And you know what happens? People who are poisoned and starved of that information, they take actions which lead to their deaths. We have a huge problem with our youth dying. The youngest and healthiest members of society are now dying in unprecedented rates. And this is all because of censorship and propaganda, which is the mirror image of censorship. And therefore, I just want to tell you, you guys just don't know what's happened to us. We have taken our Hippocratic oath seriously. We are deeply studied. We've only wanted to seek to put out good guidance. I've been an educator my whole career. I continue to educate, but yet I'm censored at every turn. And the last thing that you guys got to know, they don't stop it with everything I told you. This is a case about social media, but it's not just social media. We've been censored at the medical journals. We've been censored by taking down off of YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Shopify, PayPal, Vimeo dropped us as clients. We couldn't even put out a press release anymore. And then the media completely ignores us, does not publish anything that we do. And then the final weapon is the medical boards. They're taking our licenses. They're making examples of us because they want to terrify the rest of the physician population in this country to not speak out and not speak truth. So they're going after us in the medical boards. I have numerous complaints on misinformation. I spend a lot of my time defending my colleagues around the country who are about to lose their livelihoods. And why? Because they had a scientific opinion that was contradictory to the supposed scientific consensus. This is absurd. We are now looking at legislation popping out in crazy places like California, where they want to try to pass a bill that would punish a doctor for sharing their honest medical opinion with a patient. We have legislation now in France which would criminalize criticism of these vaccines. We also are seeing that in Brazil. This is absurd and it has to stop. My last piece of advice. When you hear someone labeled as a misinformationist, pay particular attention to who they are and what they speak. I can guarantee you that they have no conflict of interest and they are speaking truths. They are being mislabeled as misinformationists. The vast majority of them are speaking truth. I would instead be very, very skeptical of those accusers of those misinformation. Be skeptical of what they say and what they're about. Question everything nowadays. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Dr. Pierre Corey. It's getting a little nicer out, right? The sun's peeking out.
Okay, so you have the doctors that stepped up here, gave you a little bit of the background because doctors have been so censored. But now we want to bring up an attorney, very special attorney, especially to me, my attorney. We're honored to introduce the next speaker, Sujata Gibson of the Gibson Law Firm. She's a veteran civil rights attorney, movement law expert, and professor at Cornell University. And she has been fighting for the rights of parents, of teachers, of firefighters, of nurses in New York who were illegally taken out of our jobs and our profession. She's been fighting with us for years and possibly fighting for years ahead of us. I give to you Sujata Gibson.
Thank you, Michael. Somebody asked me why I'm here a few minutes ago. I'm here to bear witness to a turning point in our nation's history. Could possibly be the unraveling of our American democracy. This case has massive significance. The lower court itself described what happened here as the most massive attack against free speech in United States history. I'm going to say that again. The lower court said that if proven true, the allegations here, which are well supported by the record, enough that the lower court felt that the plaintiffs are likely to succeed and injunctive relief is warranted.
You keep getting in front of it?
Sorry. That this is the most massive attack against free speech in United States history. The right of free speech is one of the most central rights that we have to protect our democracy. At the age of 16, Benjamin Franklin wrote under a pseudonym that whoever would overthrow the liberty of a nation must subdue the freeness of speech. At the time, his brother, who published the paper that he published this in, was in jail for writing words that were uncomfortable for the government. In the First Amendment, our founders codified robust protections against encroachment on free speech, and it became one of our most central, fundamental rights that the government may not abridge free speech. Over time, court cases showed that even the most minor infringement on this right would be strictly enforced. It didn't matter if the speaker was repugnant, misinformed, or ignorant. The government could not step in and censor viewpoints it did not like. However, in this instance, the government didn't just censor a few viewpoints it didn't like. It created a massive network of organizations involving the FBI, the federal government, the president's office, CISA, and 84 other defendants to collude with and coerce social media networks to censor and cancel speech that it didn't like. This is not a minor thing. What was happening here is shocking. It is shocking that the government would write up to 18 emails a week, sometimes more, trying to force social media companies to take down content it didn't like. And not just content it didn't like, speakers it didn't like. It got to the point where if you mentioned the name Kennedy, your content would probably be censored. And social media companies complied for the most part. But when they questioned or they said, well, you know, this really doesn't fall afoul of our policies or this is true, the government would say, well, even if it's true, I need you to take it down and I need you to change your policies. And if you don't, we're going to change the law and basically kneecap you so that you can no longer function as a company. This is thuggery. Today the Supreme Court is going to weigh in on whether this violated the First Amendment. I think it is very clear to anybody in America that this sort of behavior, this sort of massive collusion violates the First Amendment. And yet, notably silent in this situation are groups like the ACLU. Where is the ACLU? How did we get to this point where the Supreme Court even has to hear this case, where the government even thinks it could possibly get away with this level of censorship? The court is going to make a very important decision in this case, and today they're going to hear arguments, and I pray that they have the strength and courage to uphold our democracy, because if they do not, if they allow this to happen, it's over. The American experiment is over. But Courts follow culture, and the reason that I believe we're here today, well, that's also on us. We have been manipulated into a divisive cancel culture that cannot tolerate the mildest opposition in opinion or thought. It is so pervasive now that a few days before coming here, I went out to my car and saw that somebody had felt that the compulsion to spray paint over the name of the president that I'm supporting on a bumper sticker. People cannot, and this was not just some random act of spray paint. My friend was with me, he's an expert on spray paint. It was a very high-end matte spray paint that you can only get online that was used. You know, someone took the time to order it online, get it, spray paint over my little bumper sticker. But how do we get to the point where we can't tolerate other ideas? We can't tolerate seeing a bumper sticker of a president we don't like. We can't tolerate hearing somebody give a different perspective or, you know, different idea of what we should do. Tyranny. It's, I think, intentional. Because if we're at each other's throats and we're allowing the government to say that they are the arbiter of truth and they are the sole arbiter of truth and they will silence anything that they don't like, we're done for. We're easily controlled. This is not the country that I grew up in, and this is not the country that I am going to live in. We are going to fight to make this the United States of America again. So we all, in our daily lives, have to learn to tolerate differences of opinion. And it's not just a right or left thing or an independent thing. We have to listen to those who we fundamentally disagree with.
Yes.
And we have to really appreciate why that's important. Because when we stop doing that, when we just devolve into these teams that need to just hear the same buzzwords from one another to know that we're all on the same page, this is where we end up. I'm really honored to be here today to bear witness at this historic turning point. And I'm very hopeful that the Supreme Court will do the right thing here and put a stop to this in a way that sends a message that the government can never do this again. So, all of you who are watching on this streaming show and all of you who are here today, we are bearing witness, holding our hearts open and letting the courts and the country know that this matters to us. Our country matters to us and our fundamental freedoms matter to us. Yes. And we are not going to go silent into the night and let them disappear.
Yes.
Yes. Sujata Gibson. Sujata Gibson and Children's Health Defense are responsible for beating the vaccine mandate in New York on nurses and medical professionals. They beat that. They beat that. And she's continuing to fight for teachers, firefighters, cops, and many, many others that were done wrong. Most of you in this crowd know all about that. Our next speaker, Daniel O'Connor, earned his Juris Doctor from UC Law San Francisco and MA from UCLA. With over 25 years experience building software and service companies targeting the biotechnology, pharmaceutical, and healthcare sector, Daniel and colleagues developed innovative solutions for some of the largest clinical trial sponsors in the world. Daniel is the founder and CEO of TrialSite Inc., a media platform established to translate complex biomedical and health research for a wider audience. Welcome, Daniel.
Hey everybody, can everybody hear me okay? All right, okay, so, you know, I am the founder of TrialSite News. I'm not a journalist. I just sort of fell into this, and I spent over 20 years building software companies that worked with these large pharmaceutical companies and their clinical trials. So I know them very well. So I just sort of fell into this. So started TrialSite before the pandemic to really democratize biomedical research. The assumption is, you know, we need to understand our own health in this system, right? It's a coin-operated system. So you've got to take care of yourself. You have to understand what the medicines are, how they're developed, everything. So we started that company, and when the pandemic started, we actually served a critical role helping patients that had sick or family members with sick patients with COVID get into clinical trials. We helped hundreds of doctors find clinical trials, and then we started tracking ivermectin. And as some people will attest, most people in North America that learned about ivermectin learned about it through us. Okay, a lot of people forget that fact, but that's okay. So what happened was, though, we started to notice. Now we have our own platform, so they can't censor us directly, okay? I invested, we control our own system, we're not dependent on any social media. However, we use social media for, YouTube, Facebook, what have you. Long story short, we started to see very, very serious patterns of censorship of like ivermectin studies, for example. We saw, the classic one was when the nation of Slovakia approved ivermectin as on an emergency basis for COVID, and we simply posted that on Facebook with the documentation proving that that was the case. And Facebook said, no, that's misinformation. We said, hold on a second. Here's the government document. What are you talking about? And they said, no, it's misinformation. Okay. Same thing happened on YouTube, and then we started having countries contact us. There are various countries that authorize ivermectin on an emergency basis, and countries contacted us and said, and I can't mention which countries they are, but they said, you got to take that news down. And we said, why? And they said, because the World Health Organization is going to pull our money. Okay, so I'm going to tell everybody out there is a ministry of truth. In 1984, if anybody ever read that book, okay, censorship isn't just about, in 1984, not being able to share information. It's about destroying whatever the truth is, period, okay? So that doesn't exist anymore. My concern is that this trend, okay, it's whoever's going to be in power. It's a trend. It's like tribalism that's happening, okay? And it's very important. We stay objective. We stay neutral. We report on the facts, whatever they are. I don't care who I upset, okay? That's a beautiful thing about being independent. Now, a couple other things. But ivermectin, we still, no problem with my industry colleagues. I have a lot of people in industry, Pfizer, you name it, okay? Where we started pissing people off is when we started reporting on issues with the vaccines. And we knew of problems early on, and we reported on those problems. Shortcuts that were taken, things like that, regulatory minutia. Well, we started to let certain people publish before the Substack thing took off. A guy named Steve Kirsch put an article on our news site early on, and a group called NewsGuard contacted us. They were empowered by somebody, okay? They're ex-news executives from big media, and they said, you better take that Steve Kirsch piece down off your website. I told them, hey, it's an opinion piece. We don't necessarily agree with it. We have all kinds of pro-COVID vaccine data on our website. They said, it doesn't matter. It has to go. So we politely told them where to go, because we can, right? And I will tell you guys, if you Google us, you'll see some, like, oh, they're quasi-conspiratorial. That's because, we didn't just succumb to what their wishes are, okay? You got to be able to have debate out there. You got to have science, especially with science. It's unfolding, okay? Now, there's a whole bunch of other stuff. I can tell you where we think the SARS-CoV-2 comes from and all this kind of stuff. But the thing that really put me over the edge, and the reason I'm here, I joined Robert with the lawsuit against Trusted News Initiative and CHD because I felt it was an important stance to take. So we're a plaintiff in that lawsuit. But I think the thing that pushed me over the edge, ironically, had nothing to do with COVID, okay? Get ready for this one. So on YouTube, again, not our platform, but on YouTube, we simply did a news update on the Gardasil lawsuit. So that's the HPV vaccine, okay? against cervical cancer, right? And there's just lawsuits. We didn't say whether it was bad or good. We just said, hey, there's a lawsuit. YouTube cuts it. We said, and we have connections there. We said, what's going on here? They said, well, it's not misinformation, and it's not disinformation. It's malinformation. I said, what the fuck is that? What is malinformation? They said, well, the World Health Organization, which is the Ministry of Truth for today, okay? They haven't commented on that yet, so you can't talk about it. That's what I was done. So when I got invited to come here, I said, initially I wasn't going to come. We were just going to support it. And I said, I need to come and tell these folks that. But I support this effort. There's major censorship now. It's a move towards a totalitarian type of environment. It really is. It's much more dangerous than people think. And it comes from all sides. Just to be mindful, everybody. Doesn't matter who's in power. Doesn't matter. Those tendencies are unfolding right now. So it's going to take a broad-based coalition to overcome something like this. So I'm hoping that happens. I want to thank everybody for being here, and thanks for taking the time.
Okay, so we are coming up on 10 a.m. 10 a.m. is technically the time that Murthy v. Missouri will begin in the hallowed court behind us. So, as that starts to get going, they're jockeying around in there, getting people sitting down and stuff, so probably 10:05, 10:10 that it starts up. We want to start sending good vibes out there. If it so resonates with you, hold within yourself a prayer, a wish, a good intention that the honorable justices in there will be guided divinely, wisely, to rule wisely, with ears to hear and with minds to understand what is happening and the importance of what is happening right now. And with that, I want to give it over to Kevin Nathaniel and the Spirit Drummers to pick up the vibe a little bit. Go for it.
Okay, we got another chant for you today. It's about your government. When you're here, you can join in with us. But first, you can clap your hands. Clap, clap, clap. Your government wants to choose what you can say. Your government wants to choose what you can say. Your government wants to choose your free speech you're about to lose. Your government wants to choose what you can say. Hurry up. Your government wants to choose what you can say. Your government wants to choose what you can say. No way! Your government wants to choose your free speech you're about to lose. Your government wants to choose what you can say. No way! Your government wants to choose what you can share. Your government wants to choose what you can share. Your government wants to choose your free speech you're about to lose. Your government wants to choose what you can share. Your government wants to choose what you can post. Your government wants to choose what you can post. Your government wants to choose your free speech you're about to lose. Your government wants to choose what you can post. And your government wants to choose what you can say. Your government wants to choose what you can say. Your government wants to choose your free speech you're about to lose. Your government wants to choose what you can say. say. Your government wants to choose your free speech, you're about to lose. Your government wants to choose what you can say. Your government wants to choose what you can share. Your government wants to choose what you can share. Your government wants to choose your free speech, you're about to lose. Your government wants to choose what you can share. And your government wants to choose what you can post. Your government wants to choose what you can post. Your government wants to choose, and your free speech you got to lose. And your government wants to choose what you can post. Your government wants to choose what you can say. What you can say. Government wants to choose what you can say.
No, my rights are your rights, and your rights are my rights. Say it. My rights are your rights, and your rights are my rights.
Your rights are my rights. My rights are your rights, and your rights are my rights.
Thank you so much to the Spirit Drummers. Thank you so much, Kevin Nathaniel.
Thank you.
Now back to the intellects. Dr. Marique received his medical degree from the University of Witwatersrand, Johannesburg, South Africa. Dr. Marique did a critical care fellowship in London, Ontario, Canada. He has worked in various teaching hospitals in the U.S. since 1992. He is a board-certified internal medicine, critical care medicine, neurocritical care, and nutrition science. Until recently, Dr. Marique was a tenured professor of medicine and chief pulmonary and critical care medicine at Eastern Virginia Medical School. Dr. Marique has Merrick. Thank you. I apologize. Dr. Merrick has written over 500 peer-reviewed journal articles, 80 books, 80 book chapters, and authored 4 critical care books. He has been cited over 54,000 times in peer-reviewed publications and has an H index of 111. That is significant. I give to you Dr. Paul Merrick.
Thank you, Michael. So my message is quite simple, actually.
Mike.
Closer to the mic. Hey, guys. So the federal government lied to you. The agencies lied to you. They lied to you about everything to do with COVID. So what they told you was false. We know the 6-foot rule was a lie. Social isolation was a lie. The lockdowns were a lie. We know that the vaccines are not safe and effective. Although people don't want to believe it, we know that the vaccines have killed in this country at least 500,000 people. Let me say that again, 500,000 people. We know, according to the CDC's own data, that 18 million Americans have suffered severe adverse events from the vaccine. So how was this big lie possible? Well, the reason is it's called censorship. They censored the truth. They would not let people speak the truth. And when you censor the truth, you censor science, you decapitate science, so nobody knows the truth. And so that's what this is really all about, is that the social media were censored. As Pierre said earlier, the medical journals are captured. The main media are captured, so that the truth has been hidden from Americans and the rest of the world. And this has allowed them to get away with committing what is one of the most severe atrocities of recent memory. And so this is really about the ability of people to engage in a conversation. This is the ability to speak and exchange information, because that's what science is about. It's about an exchange of information, allowing people to speak the truth. And so hopefully this case will prevail, and that we will be allowed to speak the truth, because it's the truth that will set us free. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Merrick. Have to admit, I didn't know I was coming up right now.
Sorry.
Okay. Amy Bond is the co-founder and president of PERC, Protection of the Educational Rights of Kids. Amy is originally from Arkansas and has a degree in psychology and a background in life coaching, working with people of all walks of life. Her leadership has impacted people of all ages. As an activist leader in California, Amy speaks across the state on issues encouraging and teaching people how to protect their children and families. Amy has been a professional speaker at rallies, events, news interviews, inspiring and empowering people to fight for their freedoms, helping them remember their own power to take effective and decisive action. I give to you Amy Bond.
Good morning, everybody. It is so cold. I asked if I should take off the coat, and thankfully everybody said, no, keep it on, it's okay. I just have to say, it is phenomenal to see such an amazing group of people here, and to be on the stage with phenomenal experts who are warriors for freedom and warriors for protecting free speech. In California, I have to say, we have been censored left and right in our organization, as well as myself personally. You have to understand, we are protecting children. We're standing for parental rights. We're there to protect medical freedom and health freedom and your choice. And we as an organization protecting children, we're being censored for doing that. We were standing in front of LAUSD. LAUSD is Los Angeles Unified School District. It is the largest school district in the state of California, representing over 600,000 children. It's the second largest school district in the country. And 2.5 years ago, we were in the rain, standing there. I was on a bullhorn, and we were rallying for children. And in that moment, in the rain, there was a very important policy change that came out from the school district, which was that they were no longer going to kick out 35,000 children, and they were also delaying their vaccine mandate on 600,000 children. So it was this huge moment. We were all standing there, and I was on a video, and my team was videoing me, and I just talked about that moment and said we won on behalf of parents and these children. We went to post that video on Instagram, and within 30 minutes it was starting to go viral, and that video was deleted without our consent, just deleted. We tried again, deleted again, tried again, deleted again. And all we were doing was protecting children parental rights and telling the truth, and that was deleted from the public square. I want you all to know that truth is not fragile. When we're speaking truth, it is not fragile. The only thing fragile is fraud, lies, and propaganda. That's what's fragile. Truth is the most powerful weapon that we have. It's our voice to speak not only what truth is, but our truth. I was getting my hair cut a couple of days ago, and the stylist that I've known for years, who's been there for decades, she said to me, I was telling her about, what we're doing here today, and she said, Amy, all I did was I went online and I said what my opinion was about President Biden. And her opinion was that he is a moron. Now, whether you agree with that or not, actually, that's not the point. You can agree with that or you can disagree, but the point was that her thoughts and her opinion about the President of the United States and his administration was deleted off of the public square, off of the internet, just saying her opinion, her thought that he was a moron, okay? So if not only is the truth being censored and deleted, but also how we feel and what we think, that is a problem. That means tyranny is at our doorstep. And that also means that we need to ask really important questions like, why? Why are they deleting that type of comment? Who is deleting that? Who is being censored and what is being censored? Do you understand? Because here's the point. Truth is treason in an empire of lies. Truth is treason in an empire of lies. One of my biggest concerns about the freedom movement, and I'm talking about the movement in general, not just here in the United States, but across the world, is complacency. Sometimes when we're winning, which we are, we're winning really important battles for free speech and important battles for freedom. But sometimes when it's a little bit calmer, we're in the eye of the storm, we forget just a little bit and we get complacent. And so I hope that you hear me and anybody that's watching this listens, that complacency is the quickest way to get to tyranny. And it's our duty and our responsibility to make sure that we are not falling asleep in this moment. We are the ones that are here. We're the ones alive. We're the ones that are awake. So right behind us is this amazing symbol of freedom that is supposed to uphold the Constitution. That's their duty and their obligation. But it's our responsibility to defend our freedoms. Just because there's a piece of paper named the Constitution of the United States that have the most powerful principles for freedom and sovereignty, that is not what gives us permission to be free. That's not what gives us permission to have free speech and to speak our truth. That is given to us by God. My aunt, my grandmother, fled from Budapest, Hungary during the time of World War II, when tyranny was at their doorstep. And my aunt, my great aunt, she's like half my size, she's super short, and yet she had so much courage during that time. Do you know what she did? She dressed up like a beggar and like a boy and went and begged for extra food rations. And you know why she did that? Because she used that extra food ration to create food and make food and bring it to families that were hiding in a cave in her community. And these families were Jewish. That is an inspiring story to me because it's an example of courage. It's an example that even if you are afraid, no matter what the circumstances are, we can face that fear. We can do the right thing because that's what it means to be united as a people. Have you seen the most beautiful redwood trees in California? Has anybody seen those amazing trees? How tall they are, how beautiful they are, how majestic they are. I had the opportunity to see those trees just a few months ago, and I was struck by that, and I wanted to share something with you about that today. Do you realize that these trees have stood there for thousands of years, and they've weathered every single storm, anything that's come their way? They've been strong and resilient. But you want to know what the most powerful thing is about those trees? They have an intertwined root system, so that if one tree is weak and needs nourishment, the rest of the trees are there intertwined. They're so intertwined that you don't know which root is with which tree. And that is such a powerful message for us, because we are the change that we seek. We're the ones who are here and able to make a difference. And sometimes we look to someone else and like, you're going to be the one that's going to change this, and we're going to let you be the leader. But guess what? It's all of us. And when we're united and intertwined on the most powerful purpose and mission, which is to protect our freedoms, our right to speak, all of our freedoms, no matter what the cost is to do that, we are unstoppable. We are a movement of the people, for the people, by the people, we the people. We are the people. In California, it is an onslaught and a tsunami where they are trying to take away our rights left and right through policies and schools. And not only are they trying to take away our rights, but they're trying to remove parents completely from the equation to protect our children. Completely. They want parents out of the way. And those are words that I've heard coming from some of the highest leaders in California. And the censorship is everywhere. You have good parents and grandparents and families and people that don't even have children, and people of all walks of life who are standing in that gap, in that space to protect children in California, and they are being marginalized and censored in every way possible. We were up in Sacramento, and we were fighting for children and parental rights, and we actually, believe this or not, Republican, Democrats, I don't care, but we had Democrats on our side in this particular moment defending children, and they were going to vote no for really bad policies. And so we were there. I was there. I heard those assembly members say, I'm not going to vote for that policy because it would remove parental rights. And I went live on Instagram and showed exactly who I was talking to, what they had just said, and that video made it so that we were then deleted and censored on Instagram because they wanted to interfere with that policy that was going to protect children. That is what we're up against, and it's not right. And we are the only ones that can be the change to stop that from happening and stand in those gaps. I am so inspired by President John F. Kennedy, who said this about freedom. He said, "Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, to assure the survival and success of liberty." What does that mean? That means that you and I have an obligation to protect liberty and freedom. And today we're here in honor of protecting our free speech, right? And you and I are united with people across this entire globe. Have you seen them protesting in the streets by the millions, whether it's Australia or Austria or the UK or Germany? They are marching in the streets because they understand what you and I understand, which is that freedom is everything. Without freedom, we have nothing. Thank you. The other thing is that the world looks to us here in the United States of America. They do. They look to us as a symbol of hope. And I was thinking, why do they look to us? Because sometimes I'm wondering, are we failing? Is what's happening here? I look at this Capitol building right behind us. And what is coming out of that Capitol with the administration and the laws and the policies and the mandates? That is not freedom. That looks more like tyranny and coercion to me. And yet people still across the world, some countries censor people to the point of death if they speak against their government or they speak truth. Their life is on the line. And right now, that's not the case for us. Our lives are not on the line. Our livelihoods might be. What we have to say and our reputation, those things might be on the line. But as the symbol of hope and freedom, it's not just because of the Constitution. It's not just because of the Founding Fathers. The reason why I believe people look to us here in the United States of America as a symbol of hope and freedom is because of the people. It's because we are the people that are willing to defend that freedom at all costs. And that's why they look to us. That's why they see this as a place of hope. That's why we are a symbol of hope to the entire world. And when we win, they win. Every country that looks to us, when we win anything. So I hope and pray that the United States Supreme Court upholds the most important freedom that we have, because the freedom of speech is that door where everything else hinges on that. Right?
That's right.
And so, but we have to remember that we are that hope to the world, because we are the people who are willing to defend these freedoms. And that's what makes us so powerful as a people. United together, doing whatever it takes, no matter what the cost, no matter how long it takes. What if around the corner it gets darker? What if we don't know what's coming next? I can tell you this, and I'll close with this, that it doesn't matter what's around the corner if we are willing in our hearts to be united as a people for a common cause and make sure that we're doing our part to protect not only our freedoms but the next generation of children. Because if we fail, what does their future look like? The future of our children and the generation to come. We cannot fail. We will not fail. Thank you so much, and God bless America.
Thank you so much, Amy. One of the things she brought up that resonated with me is hearing lawmakers say they want parents out of the way. That is actually really something that is happening. We have bills in New York that would allow children to get vaccination, drugs, and surgery without parental knowledge or consent. What's going to happen if we can't talk about this? What's going to happen if they stop our voices? What's going to happen if the censorship continues? It's so important. It affects so many areas of all of our lives. Earlier, Daniel had brought up not misinformation, not disinformation, but malinformation. And that malinformation means it's true, but it's inconvenient to the powers that be. And they were censoring this, and we've discovered that that is a fact. They have censored true information because it was inconvenient for them. Now, they like to label malinformation disinformation if they can. And one of the things that they did not too long ago, a lot of you will remember, is they named 12 in the disinfo dozen. Anybody remember that? Right? Do you remember that that happened? Well, we have a special guest that came here today that was named as one of those disinfo dozen. I give to you Risa Islam.
Oh, y'all can do better than that. The sun came out now. Come on. Come on.
to applaud everyone for being here, for representing yourself, your family, the nation that you come from. Even if that nation is simply America, whatever that is, we appreciate you. We applaud you for having the courage to stand in the face of tyranny, even though it is in front of a building that claims to be equal under law. I will mention to you that as the youngest member of the Disinformation Dozen, I think it's important to say that, I will mention as a black man, as a follower of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, that the truth that must be spoken has no limitation. This system knows that the time has come where all members of the human family quite literally realize that we have something in common. Now, we not only want food and clothing and shelter, we not only want to be treated equally, we not only want justice and freedom, not only freedom of speech, but the freedom of religion, speech, press, petition, and assembly. Is that right? Yes. We know that they established the Second Amendment if the first one didn't work. We understand that all of these were supposed to be put in place to guarantee the freedom of all human beings in this country. That is what it was supposed to be. How many social media accounts did they remove your brother from? 8 times on Instagram, 4 times on Facebook, 3 times on YouTube, 4 times on TikTok, 3 on Twitter, 3 times on Clubhouse, and I think they came after my website as well. That is a small example. I happen to be on the same list along with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I happen to be on the same list with Dr. Rashid Buttar, who recently passed. And they targeted us. They said that we, quote, had 75% of the influence across the internet where vaccine misinformation is concerned. Yeah, you should clap for that. Now, I believe it was Pierre Corey who said, if they say to you that these people are crazy and you should not listen to them, that those are the people who you should listen to. I think Dr. Paul Merrick said, you have all been lied to. And if they tell you, listen, don't listen to those folks, okay? Don't listen to them, trust us. Well, the reality is we have a mountain of reasons why we cannot trust you. But the people who you targeted, quite literally doctors, medical professionals, legal professionals, those who have extensive medical backgrounds and history of helping patients, helping people through different situations. Why should we not trust them? People in this audience now lost jobs, you lost family, you lost opportunity, your children were threatened that if they didn't take the shot, they couldn't go to school. Many of you were told you couldn't travel. Many of you were told you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that. And you started to question, now as a black man, that's just a Tuesday. I will tell you, to be
we're all black now, man.
But to be honest, that is not a situation that any of us want to experience. Am I right? I don't think anyone should have to fall under that category. Do you mean to tell me that in the United States of America, certain people criticize China, you criticize Russia, you criticize other nations for doing the same thing that you are guilty of? Yep. So where are we really? You should clap for that. Earnestly. Are we out here? Yes. Did you come to hear the truth? Yes. Are you interested in being censored anymore? No. Okay, then put some bass in your voice then. Yes. This is why we are here. Let me mention something else. In 2020, July 4th, 2020, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan issued a declaration, a warning to the world. He mentioned the President of the United States at the time. He mentioned the Pope. He mentioned the leaders of African nations. He told all of them that if they release a vaccination, do not take it. Right. Did you know that? Yeah. Did you know that? Give him a round of applause. Come on. He said it before anybody else did about this in particular gene therapy experimental shot that we knew at the time something was going on because they were a little too excited. They started offering people money. They started offering people lobster dinners. In Washington, D.C., I believe they had something called joints for jabs. They offered you weed. You should have known then. They offered so many incentives when it comes to your health, but they put poison in the food. They allowed poison in the water. They put poison in the air, and all of a sudden they care about your health.
Does that make sense? Okay. I just want to make sure we're in the right area. The censorship here went so far as to be mentioned in the court case that is currently taking place here, that they sent emails to social media companies saying to take down posts that stated that natural immunity is superior to that of vaccine-induced immunity. Let me ask the medical professionals. Matter of fact, let's just say we all medical professionals right now. Have any of you graduated from the 10th grade? That is where you are introduced traditionally to the subject of biology. And in that subject, you are taught about something called immunity. In 10th grade, we are taught that natural immunity is best, right? They convinced over 5 billion people that natural immunity is not the right thing and you should take this shot, and that God is wrong. That your immune system is less superior. You should just go ahead and take all of these shots that don't have long-term studies. That so far it turns out that everything we said about them is true. The studies have come out. They just released one in mainstream media where they studied over 99 million people who took at least one dose of the vaccine, and what did they determine? Heart problems, neurological disorders, Guillain-Barré syndrome, and a number of other things that we mentioned. Why? Because the Pfizer data said it before they released the shots to the public. This was a total conspiracy. Say it with me. Conspiracy. Say it one more time. Conspiracy. One more time. We outside. Conspiracy. Let me make sure they hear us. Make the right decision. So as I leave, I will say this to you. There are a number of vaccine compensation programs now. Again, we are not here to applaud and laugh at anyone because everyone's circumstance was different. People were threatened. They felt as though they had no other choice. Parents were threatened. Medical professionals, everyone was threatened, and they felt that there was nothing else they could do. So we have empathy. We are very considerate. They have now started to pay people in Australia if you prove that the shot harmed you. They are paying people in Canada if you prove that the COVID shot has harmed you. They are paying people in the United Kingdom. Did you know this? Remember, every time a drug came out after roughly 10 years, you would hear a commercial like this on TV. Have you or someone you know taken the drug, blah, blah, blah? That is currently happening now. So as I leave, I just want to make it very clear that if we do not stop this tyranny, it starts here, but it does not end here. If you want to criticize social credit systems, if you want to criticize the fact that pharmaceuticals are in control of many of our professionals, if you want to criticize it, that is one thing. But at a certain point, we are going to have to rise up as a people, truly believe in God, whatever you call it, him and or her, and really embrace that power to say we will no longer stand for this tyranny. Thank you very much.
那个位置挺好的，你那个位置，但是你在那儿喇叭底下耳朵会受伤。
A lot of more amazing speakers are coming up. And I want to say that what you've heard today and what people have said, they're speaking on behalf of themselves today. And you may not agree with everything, you may disagree. You may disagree with things people have said, not here today, but at other times. That's good. That is free speech. That is how we do this. It's not about hearing everything you love and agree with. It's about difference of opinion. It's about being able to be in the public square, whether it's physically here, whether it's on the internet virtually. It's about having the right to speak and having the right to hear. Before we get into a couple of other, actually, good number of amazing, amazing, amazing speakers, one more time, the Spirit Drum.
Free speech is our first civil liberty. And you know, that free speech is for both you and me. So this chant, when you hear it, I'll tell you. It says, free first civil liberty. Free speech is our first civil liberty. Free speech is our first civil liberty all across the land. Free speech is our first civil liberty. Free speech is our first civil liberty. Free speech is our first civil liberty all across the land. Hey! Free speech is our first civil liberty. Free speech is our first civil liberty. Free speech is our first civil liberty all across the land. Come on. Free speech is our first civil liberty. Free speech is our first civil liberty. Free speech is our first civil liberty all across the land. Yeah! Free speech is our first civil liberty. Free speech is our first civil liberty.